On this first problem, it talks about Jamie Dorado working on her assignment and getting the wrong solution. Anytime you see someone get the wrong solution, what you should do is figure out what they did in the first place and how you would do it. If you can figure out how you would do it, then you can figure out what they did wrong. So I start with this problem here, and anytime I see the word factor, I remember that we talked about three things in class. The first is, what's the GCF? 2, is it a trinomial? Or 3, is it a binomial? In this problem, there is no GCF because 6 and x squared have no common factors. So that one is out. Is it a trinomial? There are 1, 2, 3 terms, so yes, it's a trinomial. I don't even need to try that last one. For a trinomial, I do a equals 1, the number in front of x squared, b equals -5, the number in front of x, and c equals 6, the last term. My father drives a red Mustang. M, multiply A and C. 1 times 6 is 6. F, find the factors which add up to B. So if I factor 6, I have 1 and 6, 2 and 3. I'm multiplying to get a positive. Therefore, I either need a positive times a positive or a negative times a negative. I'm adding to a negative, so that helps me know all of my signs should be negative when I multiply. Then I can see that -2 plus -3 equals -5. My father drives, divide by what? A red Mustang. A is 1. Red, reduce. I can't reduce those. Mustang, make my multiples. So as I write my answer here, I have x minus 2 times x minus 3. And I can see what the correct answer is. Let's go back to the original question, which was, what did Jamie do wrong? Well, right here she has -6 and 1. It's not -6 and 1, it's -2 and -3. She chose the wrong factors, so that's why she's wrong. Alright guys, technical difficulties means these files are not going to be done separately, so I'm sorry, that's less than promised, but it's either this or no videos at all. So problem number 2, 7g to the third h squared minus 28g to the fifth. You look and you ask yourself the three big questions. Is there a GCF? There is a GCF in this one because there's a number that goes into 7 and 28. To figure out what that is, I'm going to list 7g to the third h squared and 28g to the fifth separately. I'm going to break those down. In every class today, I showed you at least one time how to do that using the factoring tree. So here I'm not going to go real slow through that. Remember 28, we broke to 7 and 4, and then 4 we did 2 times 2 times g 5 times. Then we would circle the common factors, so we have 7 and 7. We've got some g's, group 1, group 2, group 3. That's our GCF, 7g to the third power, because there are 3 of them that goes on the outside. And then I'll write what's left over inside. I've got h and h, so that makes h squared, minus, because there was a minus above, and now I have 2 times 2, which would be 4, g times g, g squared. Okay, I've got this problem now that looks pretty good, but now I need to ask the second question. Is it a trinomial? The answer is no. Is it a binomial? Yes. Is it a difference of squares? So since there are 2 terms, it is a binomial. There's subtraction, so it's difference. And I can take the square root of h squared as well as 4g squared. So it is a difference of squares. I'm going to leave my GCF in the front, and then I'm going to separate this into 2 groups. I have h and h. Square root of 4g squared, 2g and 2g. Make 1 positive, 1 negative, and voila, I've got my answer. Okay, if you weren't really looking for number 2, just go ahead and fast forward until you get to the one you are looking for. Here to the next problem. Number 3. Factor the following trinomial. 5t squared minus 24t minus 5. I need to ask the big 3 questions because I'm trying to factor. So, is there a GCF? Well, I know that 5 goes into 5, but 5 does not go into 24. Since 5 is only divisible by 5 and 1, there is no GCF. The next thing, is it a trinomial? Since the answer is yes, I'm going to follow my father drives a red Mustang. The first one is multiply a times c. Be sure you get the sign of c. 5 times -5 is -25. list the factors which multiply to 25 and add to 24. So I have 1 and 25, 5 and 5. If I'm trying to get to negative 24 when I add, I know that the bigger thing has to be negative. When I multiply, I want a negative, so a positive times a negative will do that. You can cross out those bottom ones because 1 minus 25 does equal negative 24. Now divide by a, so divide by 5 on both of those. R stands for reduce. I can't reduce 1 over 5, so I'm just going to rewrite it. I can reduce negative 25 over 5 to negative 5 over 1. Last step, M, make your multiples, so I'm going to write my x's and read from bottom to top. Here I'm using x. The problem used t, so technically it would be 5t plus 1 times t minus 5. Those are my two factors. Remember on the test, you could always check that by doing y1 and y2 in your calculator, or the box method to work it back out. All right, if I look at number 4, remember I told you in class there was a small typo on there. It should be x squared minus 11x plus 28. And it's asking you about the dimensions of a rectangle. You know that rectangles are length times width, so if I could think of two things that multiplied to this trinomial, then I would know the factors. Lucky for you, there's a way to factor trinomials. You know it. It's my father drives a red Mustang. So here I go. I'm going to multiply a times c. 1 times 28 is 28. List the factors. 1 and 28, 2 and 14, 4 and 7. I want some that add up to negative 11. Okay, if I'm adding up to a negative, but I'm multiplying to a positive, that means both of my terms must have been negative. In this case, negative 4 and negative 7 equals negative 11, so those are the two I'm going to use. Divide each by a, which is 1. Write my x's on bottom and read up. So my factors are x minus 4 and x minus 7. You aren't concerned with which one is length and which one is width. You just want to make sure that these two things do indeed multiply to get that trinomial. So you're done. Pretty straightforward problem. The instructions are difficult. The problem really isn't. Let's look at number 5. 27m squared minus 75. A lot of people in class today were really stuck on this one. I think because the numbers get bigger, you get a little bit more stressed out. Let's start by breaking down 27. 9 and 3, and 3 and 3. So if I break down 27m squared, I'm going to get 3 times 3 times 3 times m times m. Now, why am I breaking it down in this way? Well, I'm breaking it down because I want to be able to find the greatest common factor. I can see from these large numbers that there will be one, so now I just have to figure out what it is. If I break down 75, I know that that's 25 times 3. 3 is prime, so I can go ahead and write it. 25 is 5 and 5. Okay, as I break down that number, hopefully you can see pretty quickly that there is a greatest common factor, and that greatest common factor is 3. So in your first step, you're going to factor out the 3 and write what remains. You have 3 times m times m. That'd be 9m squared. Minus, because that was the sign before, 5 times 5 is 25. After you take out the GCF, you always want to ask yourself, is it a trinomial? In this case, no. Is it a binomial? Yes, it is. So since it's a binomial, I need to check for difference of squares. It is subtraction. I can take the square root of 9. I can take the square root of 25. So I need to go ahead and do the difference of squares here. All right, square root of 9 is 3. So you're going to say 3. You're going to do 3m and 3m. For 25, you're going to do 5 and 5. Remember, those always have to look the same for difference of squares, except one's positive and one's negative. And again, I'm done. All right, let's take a look at number 6. A little bit of a problem with my computer, so hold. So sorry. Okay, number 6. 25 minus a squared over a squared plus 7a plus 10. Okay, I want a factor. I'm asking myself the big 3 questions. That first one, does it have a GCF? No, it does not. Is it a trinomial? No, it is not. Is it a binomial? Yes, it is. Is it a difference of squares? Yes. Take the square root of each. So the square root of 25 is 5. Square root of a squared is a. Make one positive, one negative. As I move to the denominator, I'm asking myself, is there a GCF? No, there's not. 10 doesn't go into a squared, a doesn't go into 10. Is it a trinomial? Yes. So I want to do my father drives a red Mustang. And as I'm working through that process, 2 and 5 equals 7 when I add. 2 times 5 is 10 when I multiply. I'm dividing by 1 because my a is 1, and I'm writing my x's, or a's in this case, and reading up. Now, as I go to simplify, since that was the key word in this problem, I need to make sure that I can see that there's something that can cancel. A plus 5 is on the denominator, and 5 plus a is in the numerator. They may not look exactly alike, but if you rearranged them, they would be, which is why you can cancel and get a final answer of 5 minus a over a plus 2. Okay, on number 7, you're asked to simplify the expression 4x plus 6 over 2x plus 3. Those same questions over and over, guys. The first one, is there a GCF? So if I look at 4x and 6, I can see that the GCF is 2. 2 goes into 4 and 6. If you got stuck there, list them out and write out your prime factors. Once you do that, you should get that 2 times 2x plus 3 does give me 4x plus 6. The 2x plus 3 is in the numerator and denominator, so once again those cancel. And my final answer is 2. Which is great because that leads me into question number 8. Explain the process, the steps that you must do to simplify a rational expression. It says to look at 3 and 10. Instead, I want you to look at 6 and 7. Step number 1, factor the top. And in there, I could do like subset A, GCF, B, trinomial, C, binomial. Step 2, factor the bottom. And I'm using the layman's terms here. Of course, for top, you could say numerator, and for bottom, you could say denominator. Then you're going to reduce common terms. And write your answer. All right, let's take a look. Number 9. For which of the following are true? I've got 4x squared plus 4x plus 2, and I want to divide that by 2x. Okay, I'm trying to divide, so I want to make my box. My divisor always goes on the outside. My first term of my dividend goes on the inside. And I want to know 2x times what gives me 4x squared. 2 times 2 would be 4, x times x would be x squared, so the answer to that question would be 2x. There's nothing to put in this square because there's nothing to multiply it by in the divisor. So if I want to know what adds to the next term, I've got to put it here, 4x. 2x times what gives me 4x? Well, that would be 2. 2 times 2x is 4x. Again, nothing down here, so I want to get my end term, 2. 2x doesn't go into 2, so that must be my remainder. Now, as I look through the questions, number 1 says the remainder is negative. Well, no, my remainder is 2, and that's positive. So 1 is out. I'm going to say 1, not good. Okay, number 2, the dividend is in standard form. The dividend is what you're dividing by, 4x squared plus 4x plus 2. That's definitely in standard because the exponents go from greatest to least. That one is 1, 2, 1, none. And then the last one, the quotient is greater than the divisor. Well, the quotient is this part right here. If I wrote it out, I'd say 2x plus 2, and then my remainder, remember, it goes over my divisor. Is that bigger than 2x? Think about that. If 2x is here and 2x is here, let's just think about beginning algebra. I subtracted 2x from both sides. This canceled. This canceled. So now I have 2 plus something is greater than nothing. Is 2 plus more stuff greater than 0? Of course it is. So number 3 is also correct. Your answer would be Roman numerals 2 and 3 for number 9. Moving on to number 10. This one gave people problems in class today. You were asked to factor, so you're going through your questions. I'm going to move through these quickly. Hopefully you're getting the hang of the questions. Part A, 6r squared minus 18r minus 21. There's a GCF of 3. 3 times 2 is 6, so 3r squared minus 6r minus 7. If I try to do my father drives a red Mustang on the inner piece, I have 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. If I list my factors 1 and 14, 2 and 7, I will notice that there is no way for me to get to negative 6. Remember back to when we started factoring, the TEK said factor if possible. This one cannot be factored as a trinomial. So when I asked you to factor it, really all I wanted was you to take that greatest common factor of 3 out. And that's your final answer. Okay, for part B, you have 3y squared plus 10y and minus 8. No GCF because 3 does not go into 10. So I'm going to do my father drives a red Mustang. 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. I'm looking for the one that adds to 10. On first glance, you may say, well, I could do 2 and 12 or 4 and 6. Both of those gets me some combo. But remember, when I'm multiplying to a negative, one of my factors must also be negative. If I make the 4 negative, 6 minus 4 is 2. If I make the 6 negative, 4 minus 6 is negative 2. So it is not those two. Instead, it will be 12 and negative 2. So I've got negative 2 and 12. My father, I found the factors, drives, divide by a, which is 3. Be careful there, guys. Not all a's are 1. Reduce when possible, so we can reduce that 1 to 4 over 1. Write your x's and read up. So I have 3x minus 2 and x plus 4. That's my final answer. Okay, if you're staying with me, that's great. Just a few to go. 2 more, and these last 2 are division. Can you ever believe that what gave you such trouble in class is now the thing you're the most confident on? Here we go. We're going to make our box. Our divisor always goes on the left. Our first term always goes in the first box. Then I'm asking myself, n times what gives me n squared? That would be n. N times negative 3 is negative 3n. I want negative 7n, so I could be using my calculator. I want negative 7. I have negative 3, so negative 7 minus negative 3 would be negative 4. That's what I'm going to place over here. Negative 3 plus negative 4 is negative 7, so I've done that part right. Now I say n times what gives me negative 4n? Well, that'd be negative 4. Negative 4 times n is negative 4n. Negative 4 times negative 3 is 12. Uh-oh, guys, I started the problem wrong. That n should be a plus 3. All right, let's just go back and fix it. Let me do some erasers. See, even teachers make mistakes. Okay, that should be positive 3. So let's go back here. Go back here. All right. 3 times n is 3n. Fix that guy. I still want negative 7, so negative 7 minus 3, instead of being the other term, will be negative 10. So I replace that, and I do this right here. And negative 10 times n is 10n. Negative 10 times 3 is negative 30. Now, how did I know to check myself? Well, I kind of thought maybe we weren't going to have a remainder here, so that's one way I knew. But also, it's important to check your problems, right? Okay, now that I've got it all in the box, I have no need for a remainder, so my final answer is n minus 10. All right, last problem for you. D squared minus 2d minus 3, all divided by d plus 1. Draw your box. Put your divisor on the left. Take your first term of the dividend and put it in the first box and start figuring out what multiplies. D times d would be d squared. D times 1 would be 1d. Oh, I was trying to help color for you a little bit. There you go, 1d. 1d plus what gives me negative 2d? Or negative 2d minus 1d would give me negative 3d. That's what's going to go here in this box. D times what gives me negative 3d? That'd be negative 3. Negative 3 times d is negative 3d. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Hey, it checked out again. 2 times in a row, no remainder. That's beautiful. So my answer is my quotient, what goes up there on the top. And I'm given d minus 3. Awesome. You stayed with it, and hopefully you got the problems.